Okay, so in the case of the pond, the frequency with which the waves move, incidentally, the frequency with which the waves move and the frequency of this rotating arm is exactly the same, but we are not considering the source, we are looking only at the wave. If you did like one oscillation per second, in this case, that means you did it once up and down in 1 second, then the frequency that you are producing over here is 1 hertz. Okay, so that is vibration, and frequency of the vibration is measured in hertz. So that is as far as vibration is concerned. So is the vibration part of it now absolutely clear? Or is there any example in which you are not sure about it? If you state anything, then I will talk about that also. Shall I also talk about vibration of a tuning fork? Or maybe the string in a guitar? Which one would you like to take up, if at all you want to take it up? Okay, Sonia. Or shall I just skip the part about sound and just stick with these two examples?
Sir, I'm a little unclear about how the two consecutive columns move because it's the first one. So how does the second one move because it's the first one?
Which one you're talking about? This one?
The duck one.
The duck.
Water.
How do the two consecutive
columns of air move? Columns of water move. If the first column, the molecules in the first column go up and down, then how does the second column move?
So that brings us to the question of wavelength. Okay, so I'm just saying that is the vibration part of it clear enough right now? How the wave moves, we will see that next. That seems to be the more
that's clear.
Okay, that seems to be the slightly complicated thing. Okay, so if the vibration part of it is clear, then, and if there are no other questions, then we can move on to the wavelength part. So I'm moving on to the wavelength part now. So, okay. So I take this whiteboard so that I don't have to erase stuff over there. Now, what happens in terms of mechanical waves, and we will stick with the example of the water tank. I sort of take an exaggerated example, exaggerated view of it. Then what happens is that, okay, a couple of people just turned in. I think they got logged out and they came back in. So just for the explanation of people, I have kind of established the idea of what is a vibration, the to and fro motion about a mean position of particles because of an external disturbance. That is the vibration part of it. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Now, vibrations in a mechanical medium can produce waves. So we are coming to the wave part of it. Okay. So now I'm taking a simplified version of the water tank with water in it, the wave pool, and I'm looking at what happens when there is a disturbance that is created in this. So the boom, so to say, because of its pushing down, has created, has contributed energy to the system of the water. Okay, so the water was at equilibrium before that, the surface was perfectly flat, and then this boom came along and it actually did some work. Why did it do some work? Why do we say that it did some work? Because work, if you recall, is force times displacement. Okay, so if there is a force and the force causes a displacement, then we say that the work is done. Okay, Force is measured in newtons, displacement is measured in meters. So we say Newton meter, which is actually nothing but joule. Oops. Okay. So that means that we are actually contributing energy to this system by causing the disturbance. Now the energy has to be converted into something. Okay. So in this case, the kinetic energy of the boom gets converted into the kinetic energy of the particles of water. So as I was saying yesterday, if you examine some section over there, then you are going to have these water molecules, the Mickey Mouses, okay, whose kinetic energy will therefore be increased. So they will start moving. But it's a fluid medium. So if the kinetic energy of these increase for the entire system, there has to be a compensation somewhere else, right? Because the volume cannot get compressed. Okay, if it were something like a sponge or something, then you can say that, okay, when it gets compressed, there's space in between the particles for them to kind of occupy the molecules to occupy, the space in between the molecules. But this is a fluid medium, it's water, and water is virtually incompressible. So when the molecules tend to move downwards, what it will do is it will push other molecules, and naturally the neighboring molecules will be the ones that will be pushed. And where will they go? They cannot, so they will do two things. One is that they will push outwards, and another is they will be pushed upwards. Right? If they are pushed upwards and outwards, that would mean that the molecules that are contained in this section, right, those molecules are going to get greater potential energy. Right? So if they gain potential energy, that means they will go up. Or you could say the other way around, because they go up, they gain potential energy. And naturally now, because they are beyond the equilibrium position, gravity is going to pull it back downwards. Alright? So then what happens is there is going to be a setup whereby the particles of the medium are moving up and down in sync with the object that is creating the disturbance. Okay, so every time this happens, when it goes up, the boom is going to come back down and hit it. Again, it's going to. So what will happen is that it will account for the losses that are there in the medium, that is the damping effect that might take place because of the walls of the container and so on, right? And this constant up and down movement of the boom is going to create a constant set of waves. In fact, in this case, 5 waves per second. All right. So is this understandable so far? I haven't yet come to the wavelength part of it. Any questions about whatever we have discussed so far? Oh God, Ara. Anybody else has any doubts about it so far? From this we can develop the concept of wavelength. If this so far it is clear. So why do the neighboring waves also participate is because of the elasticity of the medium. The fact, I mean, the question of whether there is space for compression, there isn't space for compression, how much space is available, all this comes into effect. This I am talking about mechanical waves in a fluid medium, of liquid medium, but the same thing happens with sound, whereby the particles of the medium are compressed together. There is a lot of space in between. So the damping effect can also be considerably higher. But anyway, let's not confuse with that. So shall I move on now to talk about the wavelength?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now for the wavelength, let me go very carefully. It is apparent that this wave, the disturbance that is produced, is going to move in the forward direction. Forward, I mean, we shouldn't strictly speaking talk in terms of the forward direction, but basically in the direction of propagation of the wave. Okay, in this case, actually, if you look at a wave tank from the top, then the effect is what would be called as a ripple effect. So if the gong is, if the disturbance is created over there, then the ripples are going to travel outward like this. Okay, so it will be a two-dimensional movement in this case. The third dimension, this will be happening. So if you look from the top, it will look like this. You look from the side, it will look like this. So if it is clear that the wave is moving in this direction, you could ask the question, with what speed is the wave moving? Okay, and I think if I remember correctly, yesterday I had said the speed with which it moves over here is, yeah, here it is, 10 centimeters per second. Okay, I wish I had not given this as 5 hertz because that kind of makes it complicated. But I could simply say in one oscillation, the distance that the wave's crest moves, right? In one oscillation, the distance that the wave's crest moves is what is the wavelength. In other words, the distance covered by the wave. Is that somewhat clear, or do you want me to clarify that? Now this is back to Krishna, Sonia, and all those who expressed doubt about this particular concept. What is the wavelength? This number over here is actually what we know as the wave speed or wave velocity. We can call it wave speed. Okay, but we are talking about wave length. Coming back to this example, say for example in this one, we can say that when you do one up and down motion, just like you hold the rope and you do one up and down motion, in that one up and down motion, how far has the wave traveled in terms of the distance from the rope? So in this case, I would say that this point, right, when the up and down motion is completed, this gives you the wavelength, the distance that the wave has moved from one crest to the next.
So, sir, when they say wavelength vibration, do I take those two words individually, or they are a phrase for a certain kind of thing like wave speed or wave velocity?
Yeah, wave velocity is completely different. See, wave velocity.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just saying, so it's like talking about one thing but two different words, right? So when they say wavelength vibration, does it mean something completely different from wavelength space vibration, or is the same thing?
Okay, so we are talking semantics now. So, okay, maybe I'm getting a clearer picture of what is the problem here. So you're saying there is a statement somewhere, I don't know, some question or something like that, where it says wavelength vibration. Is it, or vibration wavelength?
Yeah, I think so. I'll just check.
I would say that the correct term to use would be to use that qualifier, the wavelength of a vibration. Okay, if they say wavelength vibration, it can be confusing. And to put my own point to it, I would say that vibration and the occurrence of a wavelength are associated phenomena. When a vibration takes place, then there is a wavelength that is possible. Okay, so we can say the wavelength of a vibration. The wavelength actually, if you want me to like precisely put it, I would say wavelength caused due to a vibration. And that depends. See, in the water medium, in the liquid medium over here with water, I said that I have noticed before that it's about 10 centimeters or so per second. Very hard to measure actually, but anyway, it can be done. If you take ropes, then it depends on what material of the rope is, how much tension you have on the rope. Okay, that matters quite a lot. But I would say that it perhaps can move about 5 meters per second. So the wave speed can be about 5 meters per second. And of course, for sound waves, we know that it is approximately 340 meters per second. And then there is the completely, off the charts kind of wave motion, which is your electromagnetic radiation. And EMR moves at that famous 3 times 10 power 8 meters per second. But these are all wave velocities. Okay. Now, according to the wave velocity and the frequency, we can calculate what is the wavelength, and that is given by that equation, the wave equation. V is equal to F times lambda.
Arun sir.
Yeah.
So basically, when the waves, you just take the two thrusts, say, and you measure the distance, and that will give you the wavelength, right?
Yeah. But I mean, practically speaking, it's a very difficult thing to do. I mean, you will have to do some multiple exposure photography, 1/10th of a, 1/1000th of a second, sort of, I mean, 1000 frames per second or something like that. And then you have to also have a scale somewhere in the back, so that you can measure what is where the crests are, where the troughs are, and what is the distance between them, or and you have parallax problems and all that. You can't actually do the experiment, but you can measure, how much time it takes for it to go to this end and come back, and based on that and the number of oscillations that you did, you can get a rough estimate of what is the wave speed and therefore what is the wavelength. In fact, wavelength is, I would imagine that wavelength will often be derived from other values. You can measure the frequency because the disturbance can be done mechanically through some device whose RPM you can, or RPS you can measure, and then the velocity over it's, the time taken for mechanical waves for it to go and then come back, that can be measured approximately, and from that you can work out what is the frequency, what is the wavelength, lambda. You should see that video that I posted the link for, in which they show the vibrations of different musical instruments. Okay, and like a guitar string vibrates, and the same thing happens in a guitar string. When you pluck a guitar string, the vibrations move to one end and then go back, and then it keeps bouncing back and forth. That is why there is a sustenance of the sound, right? But the thing is, if you say that this is what is happening in a guitar string, you wouldn't believe me. But if you slow down the velocity of the camera, I mean, if you increase the frames caught per second in a camera and you do something like 1000 frames per second, there are so many slow motion videos that are available on the internet. Instead of watching silly stuff in slow motion, try to watch some of these occurrences in slow motion. It's very interesting. And then you will see that the guitar string also vibrates in exactly the same manner. The sitar string vibrates in the same manner. Even the cymbals on a drum, they vibrate in exactly the same manner. And if somebody does it with a tabla or something, you will also see that the skin on the top of the tabla also does the same thing. One of the most interesting things is to watch these crystal glassware and the way they respond to the sound. Like they say that you can break glass by producing a frequency high enough. It's not a frequency high enough. If you produce frequencies which are whole number multiples or of the same frequency as the natural frequency of the glass, then you can set up runaway resonance. And basically the top part of the glass will start doing this. And if it goes beyond its structural integrity, then it will snap. It's not very hard to do if you have the right equipment, actually. But anyway, coming back to the point, I hope by this I have clarified the difference between vibration and wavelength. Vibration is the to and fro movement of the particles of a medium in response to an external disturbance. The particles themselves do not travel. It's the energy in the particles that travel because they are all connected with each other. So there is only, so if there are changes in the energy level of one particle, it's going to affect the neighboring particles, etc., etc. And then the movement takes place. So the movement of the energy in terms of how much distance it moved per oscillation, that gives us the wave. So if these two differences are more or less clear, then you are okay with this concept.